We are here live in Texas, and we are halfway through the Texas Stampede Tour. TJPW had a wonderful 2 days in Austin, which we'll chat all about. We also have some Grand Princess news because, oh yeah, that show is next weekend. We'll chat Las Vegas, the build to Miyu and Arai, and preview the final Texas stops. All that and more coming up on the Tokyo Joshi Pod. Stay tuned. Hello to all you big children out there. Konnichiwa, and welcome to the Tokyo Joshi Pod, your weekly dose of everything TJPW. I'm your host, Andy Zeich, and howdy from Dallas, Texas. I made the trip up from Austin today, and so far, the trip and the tour have both been excellent. I will talk all about the trip as a whole. Next week, I'm going to plan like a March monthly bonus episode for you all, which is going to dive into like my travel experiences for those of you that are interested in that part of it. Talk all about Texas, talk all about the Stampede tour, the shows, the meet and greets as well. Getting a lot of meet and greets done. So awesome to meet some of the TJPW ladies. All of them are wonderful, incredibly nice, incredibly kind, very grateful and gracious. So looking forward to sharing all of those memories with you guys, all that fun stuff. Today on the show, we will talk about both of the Austin events for a little bit. We'll also review the final show that took place in Japan, the Fate and Ryogoku show. That took place on Sunday before all the girls traveled, or I shouldn't say all the girls. The 18 women that were making the trip over made the trip over to Texas. So we'll talk about that. That was TJPW's final stop on the road to Grand Princess in Japan. Then, of course, now we have the Texas tour as our final kind of home stretch towards that show. Speaking of Grand Princess, we have a couple updates regarding that major show that we could talk about. That is next weekend. That's crazy to me. Like, as I sit here in Texas and I'm halfway through the Texas tour with some of these shows, having a blast. And then I'm like, oh yeah, it doesn't end when Texas is over. We're going to get the biggest show of the year, maybe the biggest show ever coming up hot on the heels of Texas. That's wild. But we will talk a little bit about Grand Princess. We have a couple of Vegas updates as well that have come out that we'll talk about. Some other odds and ends we can chat on. And of course, we are going to preview the remainder of the Texas tour, Dallas and Houston. Truly, who needs March Madness when you have TJPW Madness? Am I right? I do love March Madness. I did fill out a bracket earlier today, but I was very rushed in doing it. And usually I love to sit down and actually think about the bracket. You know, I don't ever do it for money, but I just really enjoy kind of filling out the March Madness bracket. So it's a little bit of a bummer that I had to rush my way through it this year. But that being said, the reason I was so rushed was only a positive because this trip to Texas has just been so busy, so much fun, going to the shows, doing the meet and greets, getting the merch, meeting up with some friends, new and old. So it's just a chance to, it's a vacation in a way, right? It's a busy, busy vacation. So it's bittersweet as it relates to the March Madness. I haven't even had a chance. I'm recording here on Thursday. I think everything started today. I haven't even had a chance to watch any of them. I don't even know if I will, but this isn't a March Madness podcast. I'm sure there's plenty of coverage happening out there. We are going to talk a lot about TJPW today. I do hope that all of you are doing well. I hope that you are all enjoying the Texas Stampede shows, whether you are here in Texas in person or planning to come to Texas, or if you're just watching them at home on Wrestle Universe. I did get a chance to say hello to a handful of friends in Austin, new friends who kind of came up and said hello, a couple of friends of mine who met up with me. If you are going to be in Dallas and Houston this weekend, let me know. I do have stickers if you would like to grab a sticker from the Tokyo Joshi Pod. Just feel free to come on up. I'll be the guy with the Tokyo Joshi Pod stickers all over my shirt and my bag, and you probably can't miss me. Before we jump into our show today, I do want to just, last but not least, give a reminder that later on next week, I will be hopping on with the guys at Talk Joshi to do almost like a mega collab preview, potentially a review as well. We'll see, TBD, But we are going to preview the very big Grand Princess show happening next week. Really, really excited about that. I think the last time I jumped on Talk Joshi, we talked about Itinyon. I think we recorded in like December before the holidays for that January 4th show, and we had a blast just kind of collabing and chatting TJPW. So looking forward to that next weekend. That will go up on the Talk Joshi feeds. We'll probably do our own little preview here as well, which I have to check with scheduling. That might come up before that. But either way, you'll get more previews than you'll know what to do with. I'll try to keep my opinions the same in between. But all that being said, Matt and Andy are fantastic. Please go give them a listen if you don't already over at Talk Joshi. They cover much more than TJPW. So if you are just a Joshi fan, kind of as a whole, and you enjoy Stardom and Marigold and Sendai Girls and Oz Academy, I mean, you name it, they will talk about almost any and everything, including like AEW wrestlers, WWE wrestlers. They talked about the Eve shows that Miyu Yamashita and Jamie Hayter were on. They cover so much. They do an excellent job. Rob, too, cannot leave out Rob Goodwin, who kind of spearheads the Stardom cast side of things, the Marigold Standard side of things. But all three of those guys do a tremendous job. They're also incredibly handsome too. If you happen to take a look at them on their social medias, they'll love that I said that. But please do give them a follow. Keep your eyes peeled for that collab Talk Joshi episode coming next week. So with some of that housekeeping out of the way, let's dive into our news and our announcements for this week. We did have quite a bit, actually, for a travel week for TJPW, an international travel week, that is. Let's go ahead and dive into some Grand Princess news that came out. Unfortunately, just prior to the Texas shows and the Texas tour, it was announced by TJPW that Lei Ying Lee has been pulled out of Grand Princess by TNA. Very interesting news. I'm not going to dive too far into like the politics of it all or the why of it all. I believe that TNA has a couple of shows that same weekend, so potentially they want to utilize Lei Ying Lee. She's a major player for them. She was the former Knockouts champion, so I'm assuming they want to utilize her in some capacity on those shows. She is contracted to TNA, so I suppose it's completely in their right to do that. It is a little curious to do it so late in the game after she's been announced for so long. But that being said, they did also issue a written statement to TJPW apologizing for having to pull her off the shows, and they did also absolve TJPW and Lei Ying Lee herself of any fault in the matter. So TNA did take the blame for all of this, if that's what you want to call it, or the responsibility is probably a better way to phrase that. TNA did take the responsibility for that. So it is unfortunate that we will not see Lei Ying Lee, but TJPW wasted zero time in booking a replacement. And no offense to Lei Ying Lee, I think she is tremendous. I was really looking forward to seeing her in that special tag match with Sari and Yamashita and Arisu. But that said, TJPW has very subtly replaced her with somebody huge. At Grand Princess, Sari has called upon her typical tag team partner for Spark Rush, Takumi Iroha. Iroha will be making her TJPW debut. She typically wrestles for Marvelous, Chigusa Nagayo's promotion. She's a tremendous wrestler. She's done some things in Marigold when there was the Marigold and Marvelous rivalry. She's popped up in Stardom before and kind of has made the rounds quite a bit. I think she's popped up in Sendai as well. Well, this will be Iroha's TJPW debut, and what a heck of a way to insert yourself into TJPW. So as it stands now, that special tag contest will see Spark Rush, Sari, and Takumi Iroha take on Miyu Yamashita and Arisu Endo. That is going to be an absolute barn burner of a tag team contest. Additionally, we know that we have our resident TJPW nerds, the Tojo Tokusatsu Club. They are going to be flanked during their contest by a few Super Sentai heroes. Of course, they are going up against Aja Kong, Max the Impaler, and Pam Harajuku. Quite the tall task for those three club members. Well, they'll have Super Sentai heroes in their side, Ninja Red, Geiki Red, and Gohan Red. In a really cool kind of nerdy way here, TJPW has announced that you can actually have a photo op with these three Super Sentai heroes at Grand Princess. So that's really cool. It's nice that this collab came together so well. They're also going to be selling collaborative merchandise between these Super Sentai heroes, the Super Sentai IP, and TJPW. So that was also really cool to see. On top of all of that, Prism Greed, 2/3 of the Toju Tokusatsu Club, have announced that they are going to be getting entrance music for their tag team. That's really neat. They are going to enter to this music at Grand Princess. I'm not sure if Shoko is going to be entering with them or if Shoko will get her own entrance, but they did announce on X that Prism Greed was in the studio. They're going to get their new and their own entrance music, and it's actually going to be sung by both Yuki Aino and Haru Kazushiro. I thought that was kind of cool. We know that Yuki Aino sings her personal theme when she enters into the ring. I don't know if Haru has sung anything before, at least not. Her music doesn't have any words to it. So it'll be cool to see the two of them sing. I think they also announced that like Shoko has some sort of vocals somewhere on the track, like chanting or shouting or something. So maybe that's how Shoko gets involved. But that'll be a cool thing. It's always nice to see at these big shows new entrance themes get debuted. I'm sure we will get some new gear, maybe some new moves, things like that. So a little bit of a couple of bonus things to look forward to. And it wouldn't be a Grand Princess update if we didn't talk Super Sasadango machines, tasks, or assignments. I just want to whip around a couple of the ones that are still outstanding. Shina Suzuki is only 2/3 of the way to her task where she has to beat 3 social media influencers in rock, paper, scissors. She's working really hard. You know what? I met Shina Suzuki last night. I should have challenged her. Not that I have anywhere near the number of followers that she needs, but that would have been a heck of a way to maybe help her get to the 3rd win. Mizuki was also issued a challenge to find a new legendary weapon in her fight against Andreza Giant Panda. Well, there was a video posted onto X where Mizuki met with a gentleman by the name of Masami Obari, who is an anime director. And he seemed to be like designing something for her. So perhaps he's like drawing up or designing a new weapon for Mizuki. And then we'll see that weapon come to be at Grand Princess. So there's been a little bit of movement there. Interestingly enough, kind of curiously, Mizuki did come to both of the Austin shows with a mini Pico Pico hammer. I don't know if that ties in or if she just, I don't know, maybe she was just kind of stepping out of canon for a moment and carrying the hammer with her. She did utilize the hammer on some of the shows. So we'll have to see what that's all about, or if maybe we're just supposed to pretend that is, out of canon and not really a part of the mainline storyline. Yamashita also has a task to take on intensive idol training. We are waiting to see what that might look like. And then 2 new tasks were issued. Uber Eats have been assigned this task to post images online, just images of themselves that will be very buzzworthy, that can have the possibility to go viral. And I believe that Sasadango Machine requested kind of a measuring stick of 10,000 likes, something like that, or maybe 1,000 likes. He wants them to get a considerable amount of traction on these posts. Kamiyu has already started doing this. She posted a picture of her, I think in Shibuya. I saw it on X real quickly this morning, and it had like 900 likes in just a matter of hours. So I am fully confident Uber Eats will be able to take on this task without any hesitation. And then the final task was assigned to Ren Kanatsu, who was very broadly instructed to take dance lessons. I don't know what that ties into or why she has been instructed to take dance lessons. We'll have to see where that goes. Maybe there's something else, another shoe to drop with that, but we'll see how that goes. These are the final 5 tasks or so that are still out there and pending. Maybe we'll get more. Sasadango just assigned the Uber Eats and the Ren task within the last week, so he's really coming down to the wire with making some of these assignments. But this has been a lot of like a fun little side quest, I have to say, to track some of these. Some of them are, short and silly. Some of them really tie into some of the matches. So just been fun to kind of track along, gets you even more excited for Grand Princess. Bouncing around a few other updates, I did want to mention briefly Kayo Toribami, also now newly known as Sakura Hattori. We'll talk about Sakura because she did make her debut at Texas Stampede in Austin, but immediately prior to the shows, TJPW released like a first look at Sakura online. They also updated their website and all of their materials that they have with like the roster pages and whatnot. Sakura is mostly unmasked. She has on a headband, and then she has that Oni mask covering her mouth, not her eyes. So it's basically like the reverse of her face is now covered. With Kaya, she had her mouth open and her eyes and nose covered. Now it's kind of the opposite. Her eyes are very visible. A little bit of the bridge of her nose is visible, but then she covers like the tip of her nose and her mouth as well using this really cool face mask. She's doing meet and greets out here as well. I haven't yet had a chance to speak with her, but she is on my list for Dallas or Houston. I do have a couple of friends who have met her, and they say she's such a delight and she's lovely. So I'm really looking forward to speaking with her and seeing if she can give us a little bit more insight into why she made the character change. Speaking of Texas Stampede, we are going to talk in detail about those shows like I keep mentioning, but just one little thing I want to throw in here. If you are planning on attending Dallas or Houston shows, the Nazatoki game that is live in Japan, this is like the line text-based game, that is now also live here in the US. Tokyo Story USA is helping to facilitate some of the sales. So if you'd like to play this Nazatoki game, this is the one where Mizuki's Piko Piko hammer goes missing, and you work alongside Detective Palm Harajuku to like solve the case by like fake chatting online with a couple of online messenger, I should say, of a couple of the TJPW ladies. You can purchase access to this game on the Tokyo Story USA website. It's only $6.50 US. It's a text-based game, and what's really cool about this, if you are one of the first 125 people to complete the game and then share your progress at the Dallas or the Houston shows, you get a free sticker set, and the stickers are this like really cute artwork, different like unique design of a couple of the women that are in the game. It's like their art style from in the game. So if that's something of interest, definitely do it. $6, $6.50, I should say. Not too much. I think they said like the game is like an hour overall. You do have to play it by March 31st, so it is a limited time game. And then obviously you can only redeem the sticker packs at the Dallas events. Or if you happen to be in Japan or you're going to Japan, you can also redeem in Japan. But I feel like that's highly unlikely for a majority of the people listening to this. And then I just want to talk really briefly about TJPW's next upcoming US tour, TJPW Live in Las Vegas. This show is happening in April 16th. It's a Thursday from the Pearl Theater at the Palms Casino Resort. This is the same venue that they wrestled in last year in Las Vegas. There's been a couple of news and notes, nothing too major, but TJPW did announce that all 3 titles will be on the line during this Live in Las Vegas show. The card, however, will not be released until after Grand Princess is over. That's simply because we don't yet know who is going to be holding those titles. So to avoid spoilers for Grand Princess, TJPW will just release the Vegas card once Grand Princess is over, once we see who comes out of our 4 championship matches with the Iron Man title, arguably the most important title in all of TJPW. On top of that, though, they did also recently announce that the Inspiration have been confirmed to appear on this Live in Las Vegas show. The Inspiration were on day 1 of the Austin tour, which we'll talk about, and they did great, and they were very over with the crowd. They seemed to have a heck of a lot of fun, so it's cool to see them kind of come back around, enjoy their time with Tej so much that they are going to be a part of Vegas too. It also helps add some suspense to that upcoming Grand Princess match, because now that we know some of the TJPW ladies that will be in attendance, it could go either way, that Princess Tag Team contest. Something else that I thought was a little interesting related to this Vegas show was that TJPW has referred to it in their press release that this is TJPW's biggest US show to date. Not sure what they mean by that. Maybe they mean based on some of the matches they're going to put together, maybe some of the guest appearances. We know all 3 titles will be on the line, so it'll certainly be an exciting show. I know a lot of folks that are ready to go to Las Vegas or will be in Las Vegas for some other activities. TJPW puts on one heck of a show all the time. Tell your friends to grab tickets while they're still available. Speaking of TJPW shows, we have a couple of shows that we're going to talk about on today's episode. Let's start, before we chat Texas, let's start back in Japan. On Sunday, March 15th, from the Ryogoku KFC Hall, we saw Grand Princess 2-6 Fate in Ryogoku. This show was live on Wrestle Universe. It lasted about 2.5 hours, so quite a lengthy show as their final stop in Japan before we get to Grand Princess. No absences on this, and TJPW listed the attendance of 350, which they have deemed a sellout. The last time TJPW ran this venue was really just recently, back in January of this year, for one of the stops on the Max Heart tournament, where they drew 347. So not quite a sellout last time, or perhaps it was, but they are right within that range this time around, 350, selling out KFC Hall. I know everybody always makes the jokes, KFC Hall, KFC Chicken, right? The jokes are always right there. I do have to point out that even Uda Takami made a joke on X where she put together a graphic where she was dressed up as the Colonel from KFC. Dude, she is unhinged. I don't know what the heck made her put that up there. It was awesome. It was so funny. I think I might have retweeted it. I can't remember now, but go on over to Uda Takami's Twitter and check it out, because that girl is a bundle of joy. She is such a delight. This show is also a little bit important because it was, in a way, the debut of the new title belts that we're going to be getting at Grand Princess. All three of the new title belt designs were on display in the lobby of this event for spectators, fans to take pictures of, get an up-close personal look before the belts make their official debut as they are handed to the winners of the Grand Princess title matches. This show opens up with Rise Shirai giving her remarks and her house rules, and then the Up girls came out and sang Kawatsuyo Challenger. The opening match was a tag team contest. Shino Suzuki teamed up with Uda Takami to take on Shion Kanzaki and Chika Nanase. Technically, this is a preview tag for Uda and Shion because they will have a singles match, the opening match for Grand Princess. So in a way, this is a minor preview match for that singles contest. Uda and Shion did start us out. They had a nice little high-speed exchange. Chika then came in with Shino. Chika started to overpower Shino quite a bit. Shion tagged back in. Shino quickly gets the upper hand on Shion, however. Not the match to get too confused about here. Shion and Shino all in one match. We start to get combinations of all four of the ladies in the ring. Everybody looked good despite how inexperienced all of them are. I thought everybody wrestled quite well here. We do end with a showdown between Shion and Shino. Shino connects with a belly-to-belly suplex and picks up the win for her team in 9 minutes and 40 seconds. The next match was a singles contest between Kira Summer and Hyper Misao. Misao, of course, starts out on the microphone saying that this is the first time she has a singles match with Kira Summer. Kira responds by saying that she has a lot of respect for Misao. She's really looking forward to this singles contest, and she asks her for a fair and square fight, which Misao agrees to. However, of course, this is Hyper Misao. Early on, Misao goes for her cold spray, but Kira came prepared. Kira, as much respect as she has, she also did her scouting. She whipped out a pair of swim goggles and put them on, so the cold spray had no effect when it was sprayed into her face. That being said, Misao simply took the goggles off of Kira and then sprayed her in the face again. So I guess she didn't think too far ahead with this plan with the swim goggles, but that leads to a very prolonged stretch of Misao on offense. Kira did get a few licks in throughout, but Misao mostly remained in control, wins this match with a modified chicken wing facelock in 7 minutes and 16 seconds. Our next match was a four-way match, a absolutely wild four-way match. Rika Tatsumi versus Raku versus Mahiro Kiryu versus Mifu Ashita. All four of these women are scheduled to appear in the Iron Man title battle royal at Grand Princess. They all shook hands to start. All four of them kind of did like a four-way handshake, and Mahiro insists that they gang up on Rika. They attack her in the corner. The three ladies hit the Oyasumi Express before Rika is able to outpower all of them and hit her elbow drop on all of them, but Mifu kind of sneakily avoided it. She rolled out of the ring, grabbed her pom-poms, and then Mifu gets the upper hand by shaking her pom-poms in everyone's face. Mifu battles it out with Mahiro for a little bit, and Mahiro is able to swing the tide in her favor and then apologizes for bringing, quote, a weird cheerleader to the match. Mifu, though, not down for long, is able to get the upper hand against Raku, but then Mahiro comes in and locks both of them in a half Boston Crab. Rika connects with a few missile hips to Mihiro to briefly take the upper hand as well. It truly became like each woman for herself here. Down the stretch of this one, Mihiro goes for her double knee drop on Mifu from the top rope. Rika, though, pulls Mifu out of the way. Mihiro misses. Of course, I don't think I've ever seen Mihiro hit this, at least not recently. And then Rika is right there to slap on the White Dragon Sleeper onto Mihiro. She picks up the submission victory in 9 minutes and 16 seconds. After this is over, Mihiro gets on the microphone. She wants to know what happened to Rika's Iron Man title. Someone in the audience shouts out that it is now on the DDT general manager, who coincidentally was at this show helping with reception duties. So Mihiro forces Chika Nanase, who was on the outside seconding this match, to go in and grab that DDT general manager. So he comes in, he appears wearing the belt, of course, and Mihiro says, "Hey, that's our belt. What are you doing with that belt? Give it back to us. We have a big upcoming battle royal to defend it in." And the DDT general manager basically says, "No, I'm not going to do that. I have a title defense of my own at the upcoming DDT show. And if I give it back to you, well, that's going to throw that match completely out the window. So we can't do that either." So what was the solution? Well, all 5 of the ladies at this point, including Chika Nanase, basically just get the jumps on this gentleman. They try to take it back by force. He is somehow able to slither his way out from under all of these people and just left Mihiro at the bottom of the pile, just getting the boots from all the rest of the women. I don't know how Mihiro finds herself in these situations. The general manager then gets on the microphone. He calls all of these women complete idiots and buffoons, and he vows to defend his belt and then enter the Rumble at Grand Princess. We did also get some brief backstage comments. All of the women, the 5 women here, gave a group comment where they nominated Mihiro to go get the belt back for TJPW. So I do wonder if Mihiro is going to make an appearance at this upcoming DDT show. We'll talk about that in the Excursions corner, because there's actually going to be a TJPW intro match similar to, I think it was last week or the week before, where TJPW did that in DDT. So I wouldn't be surprised if Mihiro tags along and we see something to do with the Iron Man title at that upcoming DDT show. Up next, we saw a singles contest between Pam Harajuku and Mizuki. Going by the competitors alone, you knew we were in for something special with this one, and we sure got it, because Pam came out in an inflatable panda suit. So that was her way of playing some mind games with Mizuki, or maybe giving Mizuki a little bit of a test prior to Mizuki's special singles contest against Andreza upcoming at Grand Princess. Mizuki entered with her Pico Pico hammer, but didn't have the hammer head on top of it. As we know, that was stolen by Andreza and his companions, and that's kind of the whole basis of that upcoming singles contest. But Mizuki did have the handle of the hammer, and that's important because it will play a factor a little bit later on in the match. But I'll tell you this, Panda Palm was well over in this match. People were chanting for Panda Palm. Mizuki was laughing, basically. I think Mizuki was having a blast for most of this too. Panda Palm kind of starts us out eventually by hitting the Den Den Daiko, gets a 2 count. Panda Palm rolls out of the ring. It takes Palm quite a bit of time to figure out how to get out of the ring with this inflatable panda suit on. Panda Palm then basically chases Mizuki. Mizuki is also out of the ring. Chases Mizuki all the way up to the hard cam. It was up at the top of the seats for this venue. And then Mizuki, being small enough, she wiggled her way past the hard cam. But there's this really funny shot because Palm in the inflatable panda costume can't quite make it past the hard cam. So Palm is awkwardly got this big panda head all the way up in the face of the camera for a moment, and then basically has to concede and head all the way back down the way she came. As Palm tries to get back into the ring with that panda suit on, Mizuki is actually able to steal one of her shoes. She puts the Palm shoe onto the top of her Pico Pico hammer. She goes up to the top corner to jump off and hit Palm with the Pico Pico shoe. Is that maybe what we can call that? But as she winds back, the shoe goes flying off into the crowd. And that obviously was not meant to happen, because they just kind of stop for a second and look around. But unintentional, but very funny moment. Palm then, they eventually get the shoe back from the audience member. Palm kind of struggles to put her shoes back on in this giant inflatable costume. She's able to get it done though, and then somehow is able to give Mizuki this ultimate stink face in the corner while wearing the giant inflatable costume. Mizuki is eventually able to kind of get the upper hand here again. She does hit her diving face wash a top rope crossbody, and then she locks in the crossface, which Palm escapes by removing her arm from the arm slot of the panda costume, and then she reaches the ropes through the face slot of the panda costume. I thought that was kind of a unique way of going about it. Mizuki is then fed up with this panda costume, so she unzips it, which exposes Palm's butt, and then Palm just removes the costume completely, hits a Palm to Justice on the apron, that was crazy. I don't think I've ever seen her hit the Palm to Justice on the apron. Mizuki whacks Palm in the face with the costume, though, and then proceeds to suffocate her with it. Very goblin behavior from Mizuki. Somehow Mizuki gets a hold of Palm's shoes once again. Palm then removes her other shoe, so she is just wearing her socks. They duel with both of the shoes. Mizuki hits a drop kick, tosses Palm's shoe into the crowd once again, and then wins the contest with a cutie special in 10 minutes and 25 seconds. After this match is over, a gentleman by the name of Mr. USA appears. You can't miss him. He is wearing almost predominantly red, white, and blue and USA flag style attire. He is an affiliate, a cohort of Andreza, and somehow he is able to steal the handle of the Pico Pico hammer as well. And he basically comes out, he's on the microphone, he's taunting Mizuki, runs away with the Pico Pico hammer. So now Mizuki has no piece of the hammer left. She really needs whatever that new weapon is going to be. Mizuki does give some comments backstage briefly as well. She basically just says that she'll figure it out. She's a veteran competitor. She'll figure out what she can do. She does feel like she got a little bit of experience beating the panda version of Palm. Up next was another singles contest, and quite an important one, as we saw Himawari take on Kaya Toribami in Kaya's last match wrestling under the Kaya Toribami gimmick. They start fairly evenly matched in a bit of a high-speed style contest. There were lots of cartwheels, flips, rolls, a lot of hair whips from Himawari. I found myself mostly watching this and not taking as many notes, but it truly was 50-50. They traded offense back and forth throughout. They kept pace with each other quite a bit. Kaya hit a picture-perfect Sento Choryu. I don't know how many more times we'll see that maneuver. She hits that move at the 10-minute and 13-second mark for the win in her final contest. After this was over, Himawari gives Kaya a big hug. Kaya bows to the crowd, basically takes her flowers as the last time we will see Kaya Toribami. I do hope the change works out for her. I think Kaya's been building a lot of momentum recently, and I do think it's a little curious. It's a curious move to just completely reboot yourself and reboot your character, especially when you have that momentum going. That's not something often we see in Joshi wrestling. A lot of times someone will either retire or graduate or whatever it is, but sometimes people will change their gear or they change their hair or their look or add a finishing move, but it's quite rare in Joshi where someone just kind of reboots their entire character. So I do really hope it goes well, and I mean that genuinely. I'm not saying that hope it goes well for you. No, I do really hope it goes well. Spoiler alert, she looks freaking awesome. We'll talk about that when we talk about our next couple of shows, but Sakura Hattori, I think she's onto something with it. Kaya did give some brief comments after this contest backstage. She praised Himawari and she said she was satisfied that she was her final opponent. She also said that she acknowledges that, she's not retiring. She hopes that fans continue to support her as she makes this character change. Our semifinal for this show was a tag team contest, which saw Miyu Yamashita and Arisu Endo take on the team of Ren Kanatsu and Toga. Miyu and Arisu here tagging for the very first time in advance of their special tag contest at Grand Princess. Toga and Ren as well getting some reps under their belt here. Toga and Miyu start us off. They have a very brief but strong start before giving way to Ren and Arisu. Yamashita comes back in and just has her way with Ren for quite a while. That allows her and Arisu to begin getting the upper hand. Toga finds her way back in to face off against Yamashita. That's a singles match I'd love to see. I think I'd love to just see 15 minutes where those two just rip into each other. That'd be awesome. Here we get a number of strong kicks from Yamashita, a lot of strong elbows from Toga, just overall power between these two ladies. I'm pretty sure when Yamashita hit the return crush here, she just straight up kicked Toga right in the head. It looked so stiff and so painful. I hope Toga was okay. She looked okay. Arisu and Ren then come back in. They have a nice back and forth, and then things just really break down momentarily with both Miyu and Arisu hitting stereo power slams. Arisu then hits a sidekick on Ren and connects with the Jun no Okite, wins the match for her team in 11 minutes and 25 seconds. Backstage, Yamashita said that she is happy with the chemistry that her and Arisu have, despite not tagging too much up to this point. She is eager to face Spark Rush. Arisu said that she's very frustrated that people are overlooking her in the tag team contest. Everybody's talking about Sari. Now everybody's talking about Iroha. Everybody's talking about Yamashita, of course, because they want to see Yamashita and Sari, Yamashita and Iroha. So she's a bit frustrated that she's kind of the fourth of four here, but I do think that Arisu is going to show us something special come Grand Princess. Obviously, we know she's a wonderful competitor and she can hold her own in the ring, but I do think she will use this as a little bit of fuel to kind of up her performance even more for Grand Princess. Our main event was an 8-woman tag team contest. Miyu Watanabe teamed with Suzume and Uber Eats, and they took on the Tojo Tokusatsu Club and Yuki Arai. This is our 5th Princess of Princess preview tag contest, noting that we are tied 2 wins apiece, Miyu and Arai, and they both have submission victories over each other on this preview road. Watanabe and Arai start out per usual with these preview tags. They've been doing that for almost all of them. They are much more evenly matched at the beginning of this one than they have been in previous contests. Arai eventually tags out to like the entire Tojo club. All of them come in. They insist on combining in the corner, and they are like shouting at Arai to try to be the bottom of this 4-person tower. That goes just about as well as you would expect it to. I will say, if they hit that move at Grand Princess, that's going to rock. They have been so uncoordinated in trying to get that together. I think when they do actually connect on something to do with it, it's going to look really cool. The crowd's going to go ballistic. Uber Eats then come on into the match. They have their way with Haru briefly. Wakana duels a little bit with Arai, and then Kamiyu duels a little bit with Shoko, which was actually an interesting matchup of like size and speed between those two. Suzume and Aino mixed it up for a little bit. That's another thing that seems like a singles main event sometime down the line. They had some pretty good chemistry, I have to say. Shoko and Watanabe then have a short exchange too, and that kind of reminds me of their Princess of Princess title match, their multiple singles matches last year, one of which took place on the Texas Tour in 2025. Eventually, though, we circle our way back to Arai and Watanabe. Arai gets a quick upper hand, pushing Miyu kind of like halfway out of the ring. They trade, firing off like multiple intense stiff elbow strikes to one another. Miyu hits her swinging backbreaker, goes for her giant swing, but Arai is able to block it. Miyu instead goes for the Canadian backbreaker, but Arai blocks that and gets stuck upside down, like in a almost like a pile driver position. Really great core strength from Arai, and just great strength in general from Miyu, but interesting position that she got caught in on that block. Miyu then just starts hammering into Arai's back. She eventually gets her up into that Canadian backbreaker, but Arai is able to slip over the top. Suzume comes in and out of nowhere hits a facebuster to the floor on Arai. Things start breaking down like all over the place now. Shoko tosses Miyu to the outside of the ring. Uber Eats block Shoko's tope suicida, and they hit her with a step-up big boot. Prism Greed then try taking out Uber Eats, but they get dropped themselves. Everyone is out of the ring now. Arai and Miyu stare down from opposite sides of the ring, like outside of the ring. They slowly climb back in. They really milk it too, but the crowd is like really into this this like slow entrance on both sides of the ring. Miyu cuts through the tension with a really strong forearm. Arai answers with one of her own. They trade forearms for a little bit. This match like slowed down considerably at this point, but the crowd was eating it up. Miyu blocks a big boot, hits a batting hammer. Arai blocks a second batting hammer, hits a few big boots of her own. They're really quickly starting to pick up the pace here once again. Arai goes for the Scorpion Deathlock, but Miyu rolls through and picks up Arai for like an upside down giant swing. Her face was facing the mat. Arai quickly bounces up from that though, hits a full Nelson Buster, and then the bell rings. 20-minute time limit draw. After this was over, Arai and Watanabe needed to be like physically pulled apart from each other by their teammates. They didn't want to stop fighting once that bell rang. Watanabe was the first to take the mic. She stated that she loves just how much her and Arai are pushing each other, and she called Arai her rival. Big declaration from Miyu. Arai responded by saying that she loves being Miyu's rival. She vows to win at Ryogoku. Miyu, though, gets in the last word. She also vows to win, and she says, "Let's have the best match TJPW has ever seen." High hopes. That's setting the bar quite high. Of course, we casually saw one of the best matches in TJPW history at Itinyon between Watanabe and Suzume, so let's see if they can do it again here with Watanabe and Arai. Miyu does invite the entire roster out, seeing as it is the last stop in Japan before Grand Princess. Yamashita is the one that closes out this show as the leader, leading the audience in a brief call-in response chant before we get to Grand Princess. But everybody in this crowd, everybody on the roster, super, super excited for Grand Princess. At this point, it was only about 2 weeks away. Backstage, Miyu said that the draw was very frustrating, and she reiterated just how delighted she is to have a rival in Yuki Arai. She again vowed to defend her belt. Arai also gave some comments and says the story of their rivalry will begin with her winning the belt at Ryogoku. I have to say, Arai has had some terrific one-liners leading up to this, between the story of our rivalry will begin with me winning the belt, all the way last week when she asked Miyu if she can feel the full force of her now. Arai definitely knows how to deliver these lines, to deliver the anticipation, and really gives me goosebumps sometimes. Overall, this was a fun show. The Iron Man title storyline moved along a little bit. Mizuki's story moved along a little bit with a surprisingly delightful Panda Palm match. That was a really underrated match, I have to say. Toribami, of course, had her last match as Toribami. That was pretty newsworthy. And, of course, the main event was star-studded, action-packed. I watched this one before heading to Austin day one. I watched it on Tuesday afternoon. It was like the perfect appetizer to get me hyped for that Austin show. And speaking of the Austin shows, let's jump in and talk about TJPW Texas Stampede Austin Day 1. Tuesday, March 17th from the Palmer Events Center, Exhibit Hall 1. This was live on Wrestle Universe. It was a little bit under 2 hours, like an hour 50 minutes or so. This basically, it was just one giant exhibition hall. So the venue was really cool. It was very open. You could see the ring no matter where you were, the concession line, the merchandise line, whatever it was. You had a great view of the ring no matter what. I will talk more about my experience at the venue, what all that was like in that bonus episode. For this show review, keep in mind it's going to be a little bit different because I did take these shows in live. I didn't have a chance to watch them back yet on Wrestle Universe, so there may be some things that were caught on camera that I didn't happen to see from my seat. So just bear in mind, this won't be a typical play-by-play. It's just going to be more of a digest of each match. One thing I do want to say, though, is that the attendance for day one was 1,951 people. Huge number, heck of a way to start off the Texas tour. Not quite the 2,500 number that they were able to manage last year on the Texas tour. Of course, we still have 2 shows to go, but the 1,900 number, that's about on par, maybe even higher than what they pulled at Itinyon back on January 4th of this year. So terrific number. I will say, being in attendance, that crowd was probably 50-50 TJPW fans and South by Southwest attendees. There were a lot of fans who didn't necessarily know all the intricacies of the wrestlers and the moves and the storylines, but that being said, they still had a blast. They were still really loud. It almost felt like a Sukaban crowd in a way, where they invite a lot of people and it's a lot of outsiders having their very first experience. But like I said, despite that, the crowd was hot basically all night, and they were ready for some of this TJPW action. We opened up with Sayuri Namba giving a brief introduction. It feels so good to say that once again. It is great to see Sayuri Namba. It is great to see her back in a TJPW ring. Rise is great. I'm not making a backhanded comment about Rise. Rise does a terrific job, but I think Namba will always hold a special place in my heart as the ring announcer. So it was a delight to see her here doing her ring announcing duties once again, speaking fully in English as well, since she is basically bilingual at this point. We did also have an Up Up Girls performance, the first time all 4 Up Up Girls are in America together. They sang Love You More, Labimoto. They also invited a group called the Megami Maids to dance with them. They did this last year on the Texas tour as well. The Megami Maids operate out of I think it's like a maid cafe in Houston, I want to say. But they came out and they danced. The Megami Maids are so sweet. They were walking around. They had a table at the venue. Very nice girls. They were really trying to get people to come visit their cafe and kind of interact with them a bit. They were just lovely, lovely women. They also jumped into the ring to help perform the opening start call for TJPW. We opened with a singles match between Uda Takami and Suzume. This was Uda Takami's debut wrestling in America. Really good opening match. The crowd was warming up a little bit as we got started, but they were very, very excited. This was mostly like a high-speed style affair. There was one moment where Suzume slipped on the ropes as she was going for a facebuster. I think just different sized ring, different ropes, kind of get your bearings a little bit. So that did happen once, but Suzume was able to eventually put Uda down with a ring a bell in 6 minutes and 12 seconds. Our second contest was another singles match. Shino Suzuki took on the debuting Sakura Hattori. I thought Sakura looked awesome. I don't know if the audience knew that she was a new character or not. I think they just viewed her as another roster member, seeing as a lot of them were unfamiliar with many of the TJPW women. But either way, Sakura looked really cool. She came out wearing this large hat and face shield kind of shrouding her face and entered in obviously all new ring attire. Just really cool stuff. She did try to do some sort of a special entrance off the ropes. She lost her footing a little bit too, so the ropes maybe were a little bit slippery, but overall she looked really cool. I thought this match was a good showing from both women. Sakura moved very, very slowly. There was lots of pausing in her style. She might need to just kind of get the flow of the character down a little bit more. You can still see Toribami in there a little bit. She does the Pele kick still. She did some sort of an attack in the corner, and then she was kind of bouncy on her way back up. Some Kaya tendencies are still in there, but she is much less high flying, much more grounded and striking. Sakura does win her debut by submitting Shino with a move called the Shinden Fudo Ryu Majime Ura. Hopefully I pronounced that right. It is basically like this shoulder lock sleeper hold from the front, and then she pushed Shino onto the ground. It's a little bit of a complex submission maneuver, but Shino submitted, tapped out in 8 minutes and 54 seconds. Up next was a tag team match. Hyper Misao teamed with Mifu Ishida to take on Rakupam. Raku and Mifu are technically both in the Iron Man Battle Royal at Grand Princess, but I don't think that really played a factor here. This was a crazy match. Misao, during her pre-match mic performance, did her normal shtick. Rakupam fell asleep while Misao was talking. Misao kind of played dumb and thought it was a chance to win easily. I think this was a casual spot maybe for new fans or casual fans, if you will. The referee here was Mike Fullilove, who had a heck of a lot of support. Mike does a lot of refereeing on the indies. He wrestled in, actually former wrestler himself, but refereed with TJPW last year as well on the Texas tour. And the crowd was so behind Mike. He had such a full crowd support as well. So I thought that was kind of a fun thing to call out. This was a bit all over the place. These women wrestled in the ring, out of the ring. Mifu, I thought, looked really good. Misao was basically Misao. Palm was basically Palm. Raku looked pretty good as well. Misao did bring the Hypermobile with her. She did a very extended lap of the entire arena and then ran over Raku Palm. Palm responded by bringing a vehicle of her own. She had a cardboard Tesla with her, and she used it to run over Hyper Misao, trapping her leg under one of the wheels. That allowed Raku back in the ring to hit the Dr. Yellow on Mifu, and Raku picked up the win for her team in 10 minutes and 25 seconds. And after this was over, Raku wheeled Palm out in the Tesla. Adorable. The Tesla looked really cool. I thought that was just a fun, funny moment, something new that they didn't do last year. Up next was another tag team contest. Miyu Yamashita teamed with Arisu Endo. They continued tagging here from last Sunday. They took on the team of Yuki Aino and Mizuki. The crowd was electric for this one. Probably match of the night in terms of both the match itself and the crowd interest. Aino got by far the most streamers of anybody on night one. There were some streamers for some of the competitors before her and after her, but Aino, the ring filled up with streamers for Yuki Aino. This was a very hard-hitting match. They too wrestled out in the crowd quite a bit. One heck of a good match, though, from all four of these ladies. There was like one miscommunication spot where the referee counted 3 when one of the ladies kicked out, but they did a good job of just working their way right past it. That didn't lose the crowd at all. In fact, the crowd started chanting, thinking that was the end of the match or booing, but they were booing as if they were like still within the match. They weren't like booing the referee or anything like that. Yamashita eventually picked up the win for her team, pinning Yuki Aino after a skull kick in 13 minutes and 53 seconds. The semifinal of day 1 was another tag match. Shoko Nakajima teamed with Wakana Uehara to take on The Inspiration. This is the first and likely the only Princess tag team preview match that we'll see. Prior to this, backstage, there was a contract signing, although the interaction between the two parties was really light. Basically, both teams, Inspiration and Uber Eats, signed the declaration form, and then the Inspiration taunted Uber Eats quite a bit and basically just didn't say they were up to par, that they weren't going to go home with the belts. The Inspiration were going to take them back to America. Very cookie cutter stuff, but it's nice that they found time to make a segment and sign the contract and keep that title match just as important as the others. I didn't think that the Inspiration were like as recognized as much as I thought they might be, given that they are currently AEW, former WWE. They did get a lot of boos, though, for a lot of their antics. This was very classic, well-told story of like good and evil. Wakana was pretty over with the crowd, too. They were very supportive of her comeback spots. She had a couple of like 2-on-1 comeback spots against the Inspiration. Shoko, I have to call out, seeing Shoko wrestle in person. I've seen her a few times now, but she is so fluid. There is not a single wasted step, a single wasted movement. She is like one of the best in the game, not just in TJPW. I would venture to say in the world, just flawless in the ring, as close to flawless as you can get. This match ended with both members of the Inspiration hitting their finishing move called the Idolizer and then double pinning Wakana at 10 minutes and 15 seconds. Afterwards, the Inspiration taunt Wakana a little bit, who gets in the ring, gets in their face with her belt, so we get a brief little stare down between the two of them. Backstage, Wakana said that she got a proper taste of the Inspiration today, pun intended, of course, it is Wakana, but come the real match, Uber Eats is going to, quote, take a full bite, devour them, and win. So, of course, Wakana pulling into the eating humor. The Inspiration were very confident that they will be bringing the Razzle Dazzle, their words, not mine, and also the Worldwide Glamour to Grand Princess, and they're going to take those Princess tag titles. It's a big win for the Inspiration. I do think you needed that just to cement them a little bit so they don't make their TJPW debut in the title match at Grand Princess. I don't think people would buy them as a legitimate contender to win those belts, not because of their previous history or their experience, but just because they are so brand new into it. So I do like that they made time for a preview tag here. It made the Austin show all the more important, and it makes the Inspiration have a little bit of an edge now, 1-0 in these tags heading into the main tag contest at Grand Princess. Our main event of day 1, yet another tag team contest. Daydream teamed together to take on two Yukis, Yuki Arai and Yuki Kamifuku. This was our 6th Princess of Princess preview tag contest, of course. Just spoke about the most recent one where their record now stands 2-2-1. So about as deadlocked even as you could possibly be. And a reminder that both Arai and Miyu have submitted one another. This was a very solid match overall. I think I do need to go back and kind of like rewatch the tape of this one to really get the full story of it. But everyone did get their licks in. The crowd was super hot for this. There were a number of in-ring moments between Arai and Miyu, with Miyu mostly being the one to get the upper hand this time around. Miyu does pin Arai after she hit her with a teardrop in 15 minutes and 8 seconds. Afterwards, Daydream close out the show in a bit of broken English between the two of them, with Miyu's typical "Do you love TJPW" call, and everybody in the crowd shouts "I love it." Miyu finds Arai outside of the ring, holds the belt high above her, and then just shoves her right in the face, just pie faces her. Backstage, Watanabe briefly expressed confidence for Grand Princess after picking up the latest win overseas. Kamiyu also was there. She hyped up Arai a little bit after the loss, giving her a little bit of a confidence boost despite the loss for Arai. Overall, nothing like too intense or crazy, but this was a really good show overall. I may be grading it on a curve since I did attend this live. I know that always sways people a little bit, but the crowd was very into this show, especially the final 3 matches. All 18 of the TJPW ladies came to show out. The crowd was big, the crowd was loud. Just a really enjoyable experience overall. I do hope the wrestling stands up on the tape. I'm really looking forward to going back and watching these shows, reliving Texas after I leave, and a bit of a bittersweet moment, but reliving and watching these shows at a later date. I would have to say match of the night, though, was the tag team contest with Yamashita and Arisu taking on Aino and Mizuki. That one was just nonstop, bell to bell, total action. The action didn't stop there, though, because TJPW Texas Stampede Austin Day 2 took place the very following day on Wednesday, March 18th. Same venue, Palmer Events Center, still live on Wrestle Universe, still about 2 hours total. The attendance here, a little bit less than yesterday's. TJPW announced an attendance of 1,561. It's about 400 or so less folks, but that being said, I do think the crowd on day 2 was more TJ fans and less South by Southwest folks. Not that there was anything wrong with that, but there was definitely some different interactions and reactions from the crowd that we might not have seen on Tuesday. Sayuri Namba opened us up with a brief introduction, followed by the Up Up Girls coming out. This time they sang Kawatsuyo Challenger, so 2 different songs so far on 2 different days. Again, the Up Up Girls invited the Megami Maids out to dance with them and then do the opening start call. And then we kicked things off with an opening tag team match. Yuki Arai teamed up with Mifu Ishidas, the Kyoto tag, teamed up together against Shino Suzuki and Arisu Endo. This crowd was hot to start out this show, and I thought all 4 of these women did a really good job kind of wrangling them in, getting the show started off on the right foot. Shino got her butt whipped for the majority of this match, which honestly, truly, may be the most authentic TJPW show experience one can receive. So I felt like I got my money's worth there. Mostly this was a showcase match for Yuki Arai, it seemed. Mifu had some nice moments in there too, but primarily Mifu and Arai were beating up on Shino throughout most of this. Arai does pin Shino with her modified Brain Buster. She still hasn't named that move just yet, but Arai picks up that win in 9 minutes and 26 seconds. Our second match was a singles contest. Hyper Misao took on Sakura Hattori. During Misao's pre-match mic performance, she asked Sakura a couple of questions like, "Are you good or evil? Do you stand for justice?" Sakura didn't really understand her, so she just kind of kicked her, and that kind of set this up. This was basically set up as a battle of good versus evil, but there are certainly shades of gray when it comes to Hyper Misao, right? Sakura still looking awesome. She felt a little bit quicker paced today than she did yesterday, but she was still posing quite a lot throughout the match, most notably during her top rope forearm attack. She just took a very long time to actually execute the attack. She was up on that top rope for, at least 10 seconds, which is a long time to just be standing there requiring your opponent to stumble around and wait for you. So I think she'll just kind of iron out some of the kinks and tighten things up as she continues going along. This match did have a lot of Misao's cold spray. The initial can was kicked away by Sakura, but Misao revealed that she had a slightly smaller can tucked away in her gear, which was kind of funny. Down the stretch, Misao goes for the Haipami returns. That's her version of the final cut, and she misses that. Sakura then rolls her up in this really unique-looking pin attempt. It was almost like a Le Magistral cradle, which turned into a figure 4, which turned into a roll-up. I didn't see a name for it, but Sakura does win this match via pinfall in 9 minutes and 2 seconds. Afterwards, Misao threw a little bit of a temper tantrum. She ended up pushing the referee. So some nice Misao comedy. Misao obviously frustrated by this loss. Up next, we had a tag team contest. Uber Eats teamed up to take on Rakupon. Uber Eats did come out to their theme song. That was really cool to hear in person. And then Rakupon came out in Bucky's onesies, and the crowd went absolutely bananas for this. The beginning of this was mostly comedy with the girls wrestling in the onesies, but Uber Eats eventually ripped the onesies off of them. The crowd was like booing that big time. From there, it was mostly a standard tag team match. Palm got her butt kicked quite a bit. Raku took a little bit of a brief beating too, but she was also able to land in some moves herself. Towards the end, Palm challenges Kamiyu to a Bucky's fight. So those two put the onesies back on. They start whipping each other with their tails. The crowd was like super into this. There were chants for Bucky's. There were chants for this like beaver fight that was happening in the middle of the ring. Eventually, Kamiyu is able to hit a famouser on Palm, picks up the win in 8 minutes and 35 seconds. And afterwards, Kamiyu strips off the onesie and just chucks it at them. She didn't like having to put that on for an extended period of time. The zaniness continued in our next match, a singles contest where we saw Rika Tatsumi take on Yuki Aino. Very like casual, incredible singles match we got here. And this one was insane. They did start out in the ring, somewhat normal of an opening exchange, and then Rika brings Aino outside of the ring and she shouts, "Let's go to Bucky's." And then the two of them proceed to fight all throughout the crowd like it was 1999 WWF vibes. They fought like up into the bleachers, over to the concession stand. When they circled their way back around to the ring, Rika had a tub of popcorn that I guess she had purchased from the concession stand. She force feeds it to Yuki Aino on the ring steps, goes for a running big boot, but Aino dodges that. So Rika just like slaps her in the face and the popcorn goes flying into the crowd. Very unsanitary. Back in the ring, they start fighting over a water bottle. I guess the popcorn was quite salty. The match then, from that point on, returns a little bit to normal. Aino hits a Venus DDT, and at one point she attempts the ultimate burning Venus and the full Nelson of Love and Fire, but Rika is able to counter into a White Dragon Sleeper, gets the submission victory in 11 minutes and 44 seconds. They crammed a lot into 11 minutes, to say the least. Also noting, Aino 0-2 on this tour. She got pinned the day before, and she submits here on day 2. In our semi-final of day 2, we got another casual, incredible singles match, and this one truly was an incredible match. Miyu Yamashita took on Shoko Nakajima. I can walk through this move for move, but I just highly suggest you go and seek this one out. It is two of the best in TJPW, maybe even two of the best in the wrestling business. Two of the pillars of TJPW just going at it for over 15 minutes. They threw everything at each other. Miyu hit multiple attitude adjustments, one from the top rope, multiple crash rabbit heats, return crushes, skull kicks. Shoko hit a number of Hurricane Ranas, 619s, Northern Lights suplexes, topes to the outside. They did fight briefly on the outside, but mostly just like right at ringside, a little bit in the entrance aisle. Yamashita slammed Shoko on the ringside mats. She also did her like extended running knee where she goes all the way back. She did that in the entrance aisle. Honestly, the match was like maybe 70-30 or 60-40 in favor of Yamashita the entire time, which was a little bit interesting. I would have thought it was more 50-50, but that being said, Shoko didn't look bad at all. Both of these ladies had the crowd invested. I think this is certainly where the show peaked on night 2. Yamashita eventually hits multiple finishers on Shoko, and it's the Crash Rabbit Heat that puts Shoko away in 16 minutes and 12 seconds. Afterwards, they both just kind of stared at each other on the mat, like half smiling, half grimacing, like a love-hate kind of a look. They did get a partial standing ovation from the crowd, much deserved in my opinion. Backstage, Yamashita admits that they really don't face each other very often anymore now that TJPW has grown to its current size, but she does have a lot of praise for Nakajima. Nakajima gave some comments. She said that she is frustrated with the loss and she vows to get revenge a little bit later on in the tour. They will meet in a tag team match in Dallas this weekend. This was the match of the night for sure. I think it'll be hard to find something else on the tour that's going to top it. It was just that good. I highly suggest you go and seek this one out on Wrestle Universe. And in our main event, we had a tag team contest, a star-studded tag team contest. Miyu Watanabe teamed up with Suzume to take on Mizuki and Uda Takami, the Max Heart Tournament runners-up. These 4 women had an incredibly tough act to follow. I do think they lived up to the task, though. We started out here with like the PA system pumping Watanabe's theme song. It sounded like it was a club. They were blasting that so loud. These four ladies brought their all. Very early, Miyu performed a double body slam on both Mizuki and Uda. That really got the crowd into it. It helped them stay elevated coming out of that semifinal singles match. Everyone looked great here. Uda hit her springboard dodge jump for the very first time on the tour. She also locked in the koala clutch on Watanabe. Suzume was landing a bunch of face busters left and right. Mizuki hit the whirling candy on Miyu. And at one point, Mizuki also dove from the top rope all the way down to the floor. That being said, of course, Watanabe was the spotlight of this one. She had a really great-looking swinging backbreaker on Mizuki. Beautiful giant swing to Uda, who was like whipping around. Like she was moving so fast. Miyu does eventually pin Uda after the giant swing, but Mizuki breaks it up with a diving double foot stomp from the top rope. That looked really cool. Suzume jumps on in there to eliminate Mizuki with a ring a bell, and then Miyu lifts up Uda for the teardrop, wins the match in 14 minutes and 2 seconds. Afterwards, Miyu got on the mic and thanked the Austin crowd for an incredible 2 days. Everyone was chanting arigato, which you could hear her. She loved it. She was like, "Sugoi, this is so cool." She invited everyone out, the entire roster, for a commemorative picture, and then the entire roster led everybody out to the meet and greet area. Overall, I think for this day 2 show, the main event, they really had to work after that semifinal, but they sure did it. Another really good show in Austin. I do think that semifinal, though, was match of the night. It is like a must go out of your way to see. The crowd tonight, yes, it was a little bit smaller, but arguably they were more invested. They were more like hardcore fans, I guess is how you would describe it. The tour is now hitting its midpoint before we have Dallas on Saturday, which is the largest venue on the tour. So I'm really excited to see what the capacity will be, the attendance will be, I should say. And then also Houston being the home base for Tokyo Story USA and those iconic X stairs at the Post Houston. Speaking of those 2 upcoming shows in Dallas and Houston, let's run through the card ever so briefly just to get an idea of what we're in store for. Saturday, March 21st, from the College Park Center at the University of Texas, Arlington, TJPW, Texas Stampede, Dallas. This will be live on Wrestle Universe, but note that it is an afternoon show, so 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. We have 4 singles matches on this show. Shina Suzuki will take on Mifu Ishida. Sakura Hattori will take on Uda Takami. Mizuki will take on Hyper Misao. And Rika Tatsumi will take on special guest Jada Stone. What a fun singles match that's going to be between Rika and Jada. Always nice to see Jada make her way back in. We then will also have 3 tag matches. So this will be the biggest show in terms of number of matches. We'll get 7 matches here in Dallas. These 3 tag matches will see Daisy Monkey take on Rakupam. Ober Eats will take on Yuki Aino and another guest in Vert Vixen. And in what I presume will be our main event, we will have Miyu Watanabe teaming with Miyu Yamashita to take on Shoko Nakajima and Yuki Arai. This will be our 7th Princess of Princess preview tag, which Miyu has the slight edge, 3-2. They did tie once. They both submitted each other. Miyu, of course, just in Austin, pinned Arai. So the build-up to this has been incredible. I'm really excited to preview that next week on our preview show, also with the guys that talk Joshi. On top of this being our 7th preview tag, we're also going to see Yamashita and Shoko mix it up once again. So this main event is going to be absolutely killer. I can already tell. And then looking at the Houston show quickly, the very next day on Sunday, March 22nd, from Post Houston, we will see TJPW Texas Stampede, Houston, again live on Wrestle Universe. Again, this is an afternoon show, so 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. This will be a 6-match card, a mix of different singles and tag contests. We will see a singles match between Raku and Hyper Misao, a singles match between Mifu Ishida and Sakura Hattori. Technically, both of them are in the Iron Man Rumble at Grand Princess, but don't think that's going to play a factor as far as I can tell. We will see a tag match. Shina Suzuki will tag with Suzume. They will take on Yuki Aino and Vert Vixen, so Vert Vixen is still making an appearance here. We'll have a singles contest. Yuki Arai will take on Pam Harajuku. A tag team contest, Uber Eats will take on Miyu Yamashita and yet another guest in Kalia Capri. And again, what I presume will be the main event here will be an absolutely star-studded tag team contest. Once again, another one of these to-the-wall, star-studded tag contests. Daydream will team up with Arisu Endo to take on the trio of Mizuki, Uda Takami, and Shoko Nakajima. Really looking forward to these shows. The tour, I can't believe the tour is already half over. It's been a blast so far. Like I say, we'll cover a lot more detail about my experiences with the tour, the meet and greets on an upcoming monthly bonus episode, which I think will probably drop at some point next week. And then, of course, next week we will review these shows, talk Grand Princess, whole lot of things to look forward to. Real briefly, because I am running so long here, I've talked so much about these matches, these shows. I do just want to talk real quickly through some of the excursions that we have upcoming. There was an excursion for Shoko Nakajima prior to the Texas tour. She did wrestle for Choco Pro on Saturday, March 14th against Hiyori Yawada. I have not had a chance to watch this yet, just with travel and Texas and everything, but I am looking forward to checking that one out. I do like a good Choco Pro match, so going to check that one out. We'll talk about that on a future show. And then upcoming this weekend on Sunday the 22nd, there is this DDT 29th anniversary show where we have a special tag contest for TJPW in, I think, like the pre-show for that one. We'll see a 6-woman tag. Himawari will team up with Haru Kazushiro and Chika Nanase, and they will take on the team of Toga, Ren Kanatsu, and Shion Kanzaki. That's also the show that we may see Mihiro make an appearance for the Iron Man title, so just keep that in the back pocket if you're going to catch that one. And then looking even beyond that, at the beginning of April, TJPW will be making their debut on Monday Magic on Monday, April 6th. And then, of course, we have Vegas to look forward to. So we'll have 2 shows on the 15th of April, which will have some TJPW representation on it. Pandemonium Pro Wrestling has Siri Namba as their ring announcer. Alexis Lee is competing in a singles contest. They also just announced TJPW alum Natsupoi will be on their show, so that's really exciting. Natsupoi is going to take on Johnny Robbie in a singles match. One heck of a match that Pandemonium's putting on. One heck of a show, to be honest with you. The other match on that day is Pottermania. We've known about that one for quite a while. Toga teaming with Jazzy Wang to take on Amira and Lil Mars. And then 2 shows that we're looking forward to on Friday of WrestleMania weekend. Bloodsport, which will see Miyu Yamashita participating, and then Pride Style Pro Wrestling's Out of This World, which sees Miyu Watanabe participating. And with all that said, that will just about bring us to the end of this episode of the podcast. I definitely need some cold spray and some ice packs because it is pushing like 90 here in Texas. So I won't need them for the pain. I just need them for the heat. On next week's show, we'll continue our reporting live from Texas, although I will be home at that point, I believe. We will review the Dallas and the Houston legs of Texas Stampede. We'll also have our big, emphasis on big, preview of Grand Princess 2-6. I'm getting all the more excited. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, you could subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss any future episodes. You can follow us at Tokyo Joshi Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and X. If you want to email the show, tokyojoshipod@gmail.com. But above all else, remember to keep your hearts burning, stay magical, my friends, and we'll see you next week on the Tokyo Joshi Pod.